The night sky above the alien city was heavy with smoke and strange lights. Ships moved slowly through the clouds, their engines making the air shake like thunder. On the ground, in the shadows of broken buildings, a small figure walked alone. She was an orphan, young, thin, and silent. Her skin had marks of hunger, her eyes carried pain, but nobody cared. In that world, orphans were nothing. They were workers, beggars, tools, but never people. And this one was different from the others. She was a female, but no one ever called her that. To the rest of her kind, she was just another useless mouth. No one saw her as female. No one thought she was worth even a glance. Every day she wandered near the markets. She searched for old food, rotten fruit, or dropped bread. The other aliens pushed her, laughed at her, called her weak. Sometimes they threw stones, sometimes they shouted, and every night she hid in a dark corner, cold and tired. She wanted to be seen, she wanted to be loved, but the world gave her nothing. The streets were alive with sound. Merchants shouted, soldiers marched, machines roared. But no one noticed. The orphan girl. She was like a ghost walking through fire. When she tried to speak, her voice was drowned in noise. When she tried to smile, no one looked at her. She remembered the day her parents vanished. One night soldiers came, doors were broken, families dragged away. She ran, she hid, she cried, and when morning came, she was alone. From that day, she was an orphan. No home, no family, no name, only hunger and silence. Sometimes she whispered to herself, "Why am I here? Why was I born?" Her voice broke like glass in the wind. The stars above gave no answer. The people around gave no answer, and the pain in her chest grew deeper. But what hurt her most was not the hunger. It was not the cold floor where she slept. It was the truth that no one saw her as female. She was not beautiful to them, not important, not even alive. No one wanted her. No one cared. Every day she carried that wound, and every day it cut deeper. Still, she dreamed. She dreamed that one day someone would notice, not just notice her body, but see her heart. She dreamed that one day she would matter. She held that dream close, like fire in the dark. One evening, the city shook. The sky opened with a roar. Something bright fell through the clouds. A ship, not like the others, not alien, not from her world. It landed on the far edge of the city. Dust rose like a storm. People shouted. Soldiers ran. And she stood there watching, her heart racing. The orphan had never seen such a ship before. Its design was strange, smooth, shining under the pale moon. It was a human ship, though she did not know the word yet. To her it was a mystery, a shadow of hope. She stepped closer. Afraid but curious, the people rushed past her, but she stood still. Something inside told her that this moment would change her life. From the smoke, figures appeared, tall, different, covered in strange suits. Their eyes glowed under helmets. Their voices were deep and calm. They walked with power, not fear. The crowd whispered, some cheered, some hissed. But the orphan only stared. Her heart pounded, her breath stopped. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. One of the humans turned, his gaze falling on her. It was only for a second, maybe less. But in that moment, everything changed. It was not the look of disgust she knew so well. It was not the cold laughter of her kind. It was a look that said, "I see you." She froze, her hands shaking. The noise of the city faded. The shouts of the people turned quiet. In that gaze, she felt something she had never felt before. Recognition. As if he saw not a worthless orphan, but a female. As if he saw her heart, not her weakness. Fear and hope battled inside her. Why would a human look at her like that? Was it a trick, a lie, a dream? Her mind screamed to run, but her feet would not move. Her chest burned, her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time she whispered, not in despair, but in wonder. Why me? The humans moved forward. The soldiers shouted orders. The crowd screamed, but she did not hear. Her world had already changed. She knew nothing of humans, nothing of their world, but in her bones she felt it. This human was different, and the story of her life, the story no one cared to hear, was only beginning. The orphan girl woke the next morning to the sound of marching feet. The human ship was still in the city, guarded by alien soldiers and filled with whispers of fear. But for her, the memory of that one gaze was brighter than the rising sun. For the first time in her life, she felt noticed. Still, reality came back quickly, sharp like cold metal. She was hungry again, her body weak, her stomach empty. She walked through the market streets, searching for scraps. Merchants shouted, selling fruits and metals, spices and weapons. But when she came close, they pushed her away. "Go, orphan, you don't belong here," they hissed. She lowered her head and stepped back, her hands shaking. She found a half-broken container behind. A stall. Inside were rotten vegetables covered in flies. She picked one up, wiped it on her torn clothes, and bit into it. The taste was bitter, the smell was foul, but she swallowed. Her throat burned, her eyes watered, yet she kept eating, because she had no choice. Children passed by, laughing at her. "Look at her," they said, "she thinks she's alive." One boy threw a stone, it hit her shoulder. She flinched but stayed silent. She had learned long ago that fighting back only brought more pain, so she endured as she always did. Alone, invisible, unwanted. At night she returned to her shelter, a hole in the wall of a ruined building. The wind howled through cracks, dust filled her lungs. She curled into herself, arms wrapped around her knees. Her body trembled, but her mind was awake. She could not forget that human's eyes. Why did he look at her like that? Why did he see something no one else ever saw? She dreamed of it while she slept. A dream where she was not an orphan, not worthless, not invisible. A dream where someone held her hand, gave her food, spoke her name. But when she woke, the cold floor reminded her of the truth. Dreams were safe, reality was cruel. Days passed and the struggle grew harder. The soldiers of the city had become restless. They patrolled more often, carrying weapons, barking orders. The people whispered that the humans brought danger. But the orphan whispered nothing. She only watched, hiding in shadows, hoping to see that face again. Her body grew weaker, her skin pale, her eyes hollow. Every step felt heavy, every breath sharp. She wondered how long she could survive like this. Sometimes she wished to disappear, to vanish into the dust and never feel hunger again. But every time she was about to give up, she remembered the gaze. That human's gaze pulled her back. It whispered, "Hold on." One afternoon, she tried to sneak into the waste piles of the soldiers. Maybe the human soldiers had thrown food away. She searched through metal scraps and burned fabric, her fingers cut on sharp edges, her nails black with dirt. At last she found a piece of bread, hard and old. She held it close like treasure. But before she could bite, a shadow fell over her. 3 alien youths stood there, taller, stronger, crueler. They grinned, their teeth sharp, their eyes mocking. "Look at the orphan," one sneered, "stealing again." She clutched the bread to her chest, shaking her head. "It is mine," she whispered, her voice small. They laughed. They pushed her to the ground. The bread fell, crushed under their boots. She cried out, but they only kicked her. "Why do you fight? No one wants you," they said. "Not male, not female, not anything." The words cut deeper than their fists. She curled on the ground, covering her head. Tears burned her cheeks, her breath short and broken, and in her heart she asked again, why was she born? Why did no one care? Was she truly nothing? When they left, she crawled to the corner and stayed there. Her body hurt, her spirit weaker than ever, but her eyes still turned toward the sky, where the human ship glowed faintly. In the distance, her chest rose with a painful breath. She whispered, "Someone saw me. Someone did." Her voice was weak, but it carried a spark. The struggle of her life did not end. She was still hungry, still beaten, still unwanted. But the seed of something new had been planted. She was not ready to give up. Because for the first time, there was a chance that one human might see her not as trash, not as a ghost, but as a female, and that chance was enough to keep her alive another day. The city never slept. Engines roared through the night. Soldiers patrolled the streets. Merchants shouted even under the moonlight. But whispers of fear spread faster than trade. The humans had come and nobody knew why. The orphan girl heard those whispers as she crouched near the marketplace. She listened while pretending to search for scraps. Humans are dangerous, one trader hissed. They bring war wherever they go. Another said. Yet some spoke with awe, voices trembling. They have ships that cross stars. A woman whispered, we have never seen power like theirs. The orphan's ears caught every word. Her heart beat faster each time she heard the name human. She did not know what they were, but she remembered the man's eyes. That look had burned into her soul. A single second of recognition stronger than all the years of rejection she had lived. The next day, the humans walked the city openly. Tall, strange, wrapped in armored suits, their steps heavy but calm. The crowd gathered to watch. Some cheered. Some spat. Children ran forward until soldiers forced them back. The orphan hid in the shadows, pressed against a wall. Her eyes followed the humans as if her life depended on it. Then she saw him. The same one who had looked at her near the ship. His helmet was off now, his face bare. A human male with eyes sharp and clear, his jaw strong, his movements careful. He was not like the others around him, the alien crowd shouted. Yet he seemed focused, as though searching for something. She trembled, her body screaming to run, yet her heart told her to stay. When their eyes met again, the world slowed. The crowd became a blur, the noise faded into silence. She froze, her lips parted, her hands clenched tight, and he did something no one else ever did. He smiled. Not cruelly, not mockingly, but gently, as if he saw her as someone who mattered. Her chest burned. She turned away quickly. She was afraid, confused, her legs weak. Why would a human smile at her? No one smiled at her, not even the children of her kind. To them she was worthless, invisible, not female, not anything. But this human smile carried weight. It was dangerous because it made her hope. The human took a step toward her. Her breath stopped, her body pressed harder into the wall. He raised a hand, not in threat, but in greeting. The crowd noticed, murmurs spread. Why is he looking at the orphan? Someone said, impossible. He does not know what she is. Another muttered. Shame and fear burned in her veins. She pulled her hood lower and ran. Her bare feet slapped against the dirt as she vanished into the alleys. The human did not chase. He only watched, a curious fire in his eyes. The alien soldiers frowned, one of them whispering to him. But he shook his head slowly, his gaze fixed on the direction she had fled. The orphan reached her broken shelter and collapsed. Her heart thundered, her lungs gasped for air. She pressed her face into her hands, tears stinging her cheeks. Why was he doing this? Why did he not turn away like everyone else? She could not understand, and the not knowing scared her more than hunger or cold ever did. For days she tried to avoid him. When the humans walked the markets, she hid behind stalls. When they visited the governor's hall, she climbed to the rooftops to watch from above. But still, every time she looked down, she found his eyes searching. Not searching the city, but searching her. It was as though he could see through walls, through shadows, through fear itself. One evening, as the twin moons rose, the orphan slipped near the gates of the human camp. She wanted to see him again, though she told herself it was only curiosity. Torches burned, soldiers stood guard, machines hummed in the dark. She crouched low, peering through the cracks in the fence. And then he appeared, standing by the fire, his armor glowing under the flames. He laughed with his men, but every so often his eyes turned outward. Searching, always searching. She pressed a hand to her chest. Her heart pounded so loud she feared the guards would hear. In that moment she realized the truth she had tried to deny. This human had chosen to notice her. Out of the whole city, out of thousands of faces, he had seen hers. And though fear told her to run, another voice whispered, maybe he is different. Suddenly a soldier's torch swung toward her hiding place. Light cut across her face, shadows fled. Who goes there? The soldier barked. Her blood turned to ice, her body stiff. Before she could run, the human raised a hand. It is nothing, he said calmly, his voice deep but gentle. The soldier frowned but obeyed. Turning away, The human's eyes lingered on the fence, on her, as if he knew she was there, trembling in the dark. The orphan stumbled back, her breath ragged, fear mixed with something else inside her. Not hatred, not shame, but a warmth she had never felt before. She whispered into the night, her voice cracking. "Why me? Why do you see me?" Her question vanished into the wind, but in her heart she knew. This was only the beginning. Her struggle had not ended, her suffering had not faded. But now there was something more, suspense, mystery, and a dangerous new hope. The night was cold, the streets silent except for the distant hum of machines. The orphan girl sat in her broken shelter, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes staring at the ground. She could not forget the human's gaze, the way he smiled, the way he raised his hand. No one had ever done that for her. Not once. It frightened her, yet it also pulled her like a hidden force. For days, she tried to stay invisible. She avoided the markets when the humans walked there. She stayed away from the camp when soldiers gathered. But still her eyes searched for him, and still his eyes searched for her. It was as if fate itself wanted their paths to cross. One morning, while the twin suns were still low, she crept through the alleys looking for food. Her body was weak, her stomach empty, her legs trembling. She saw a crowd near the well, where merchants filled jars and buckets. She stayed behind a broken wall, watching, waiting for scraps to fall. And then she froze. Among the crowd stood the human, the one who had seen her. His armor gleamed under the sunlight, his eyes scanning the people. Her breath caught, her heart thundered. She turned to run, but it was too late. His gaze found her through the cracks in the wall. She pressed herself back, whispering to herself, "No, no, no." But footsteps came closer, steady and calm. The crowd shifted aside as he walked, his tall frame moving with quiet strength. And then he was there, standing only a few steps away. The orphan's chest burned. Her throat dry, she wanted to vanish, to melt into the stone, but she could not move. The human knelt slowly, lowering himself so his eyes met hers. He did not speak at first. He only looked. Not with pity, not with disgust, but with recognition, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Then he reached into a pouch at his side. He pulled out something small, wrapped in thin cloth. He placed it gently on the ground between them and pushed it toward her. The smell reached her nose, sharp and sweet, food, real food, not rotten, not stolen. Her eyes widened, her hands trembled, but still she did not move. She whispered, "Why?" Her voice was soft, broken, almost lost to the wind. The human tilted his head, his expression kind. He spoke in words she did not understand. The sound was strange, deep yet gentle, but even without knowing the language, she understood his meaning. His tone was not command, not insult, not mockery. It was care, simple and pure. He pushed the food closer again, waiting. Her stomach screamed for her to take it, but her heart screamed louder. She had been tricked before, beaten for stealing, mocked for begging. What if this was the same? What if he only wanted to laugh at her weakness? Her eyes filled with tears, her fingers clenched. She shook her head and pulled back, whispering, "No." The human did not leave. He did not laugh. He did not strike. He only sat there, waiting, as still as the stones around them. The crowd had already moved on. No one cared to watch. It was only the two of them in the quiet morning, alien orphan and human stranger staring at each other across the dirt. Minutes passed, her breath uneven, his steady. Finally, hunger broke her fear. Her hand reached out, slow, shaking. Her fingers touched the cloth, pulled it close. She unwrapped it and gasped. Inside was bread, soft and warm. She tore a piece with her teeth, the taste filling her mouth. Her body trembled as she swallowed. Tears rolled down her face, not of pain this time, but of relief. The human smiled again, a smile gentle and calm. He spoke once more, his words still strange. But this time she nodded as if answering something she did not fully understand. She wanted to thank him, but the word caught in her throat, so she only whispered, "Why me?" Her voice cracked, her eyes searching his face. He did not answer in her language, but in his silence, in his steady gaze, she felt the answer. Because he saw her, truly saw her. Before she could say more, shouts rose in the distance, alien guards marching down the street, their boots heavy, their eyes sharp. The human stood quickly, his hand resting on his weapon. He looked down at her once more, his expression firm but not unkind. Then he stepped back, melting into the crowd before the soldiers arrived. The orphan pulled her hood low, hiding the bread close to her chest, her heart still racing, her body still warm from the moment. That night, as she lay in her shelter, she stared at the stars. The taste of bread still lingered on her tongue. Her body still shook, but her spirit felt stronger. No one had ever given her food before. No one had ever cared if she lived or died. But this human had. She whispered into the dark. He saw me. He saw me as female. Her words carried both fear and hope, and for the first time her dreams were not only of pain, they were of possibility. The orphan girl thought she could keep the secret. She thought no one had seen the human give her food. No one had noticed his gentle smile. But in the city nothing stayed hidden for long. Whispers spread like fire in dry grass. "Did you see?" one voice hissed in the market. "The human gave bread to the orphan." Another sneered. Soon the story grew, twisting like smoke. "They say the human looks at her differently." Some laughed. No one wanted her, not even our kind. Yet, "A human dares to choose her," others growled. By the third day, the whole quarter of the city knew. Everywhere she walked, mocking eyes followed her. Children threw stones and shouted, "The human's pet." Merchants spat near her feet. Even the guards began to glare, their hands close to their weapons. The orphan lowered her head, hiding in alleys, but the shame followed. Her chest tightened, her breath short. What had been a spark of hope now became a storm of danger. The human saw it too. He still searched for her, his eyes scanning the crowds. But now his soldiers warned him. "Stay away from that creature," they said. "She is cursed here." Still he shook his head. Still he looked. Every time their gazes met, she felt both safe and terrified. Safe because he saw her, terrified because others saw it too. One evening, as the twin moons glowed pale above the city, she wandered near. The abandoned docks, it was quiet there. Broken ships rusting in the shadows. She thought it safe, thought she could hide from cruel eyes. But voices followed her into the dark. A group of alien youths stepped out, faces twisted with hatred. They circled her, there, laughter sharp as knives, "So it's true," one spat. "The human likes you." "You, the worthless orphan," another growled. "Not even a real female." Her hands shook, her back pressed against cold metal. She tried to speak, but no words came, only fear. They shoved her. She fell, her knees scraping the ground, her eyes filled with tears, her heart racing. The leader sneered. "Do you think you are special now? You think you matter because a human looked at you?" His voice was poison, his eyes filled with rage. She shook her head, whispering, "No, I don't." But they did not let her finish. A boot struck her side. Pain shot through her ribs. They laughed as she gasped for breath. The orphan curled into herself, covering her head. Memories of past beatings flooded back. But this time the words cut deeper than the blows. "You are nothing," they spat, "and you will always be nothing." Suddenly a shadow fell over them. The laughter stopped. The air grew tense. The human stood there, tall and unyielding, his face hard as stone. His voice thundered, words in his own tongue, sharp and commanding. The youths froze, their sneers fading into fear. He stepped forward, his hand on his weapon, his eyes burning. The group scattered like rats, vanishing into the night. The orphan lay on the ground, trembling, her tears wetting the dirt. Slowly he knelt beside her, his expression softening. He reached out, his hand hovering near her shoulder. She flinched, expecting another blow, but his touch was gentle, steady, warm. He spoke again, words she did not understand, but the tone was clear. He was telling her she was safe. She looked up at him, her lips trembling, her voice barely a whisper. Why do you protect me?" The human did not answer with words. Instead, he offered his hand, open, waiting, her eyes widened, her heart pounding. No one had ever offered her a hand before, not once in her life. It was dangerous. It was impossible, yet it was real. She stared at it, afraid, trembling, and then slowly, she placed her small broken hand into his. Warmth spread through her chest. For the first time, she felt she was not alone. But danger still hung heavy in the air. Voices rose in the distance, guards shouting, the crowd stirring. The human looked toward the noise, his jaw tightening. He knew what was coming. The city would not stay silent after this. He helped her to her feet, steadying her when her legs shook. She clutched the piece of bread he had given days before, kept hidden in her pocket like treasure, her eyes filled with fear but also with something new. "Trust," she whispered again. "Why me?" And this time, though she did not understand his words, his answer was clear. Because to him she was not nothing. Because to him she was female, alive, and worth saving. As they stood in the shadows of the docks, the sound of marching boots grew closer. The soldiers were coming, the danger was real, but for the first time in her life, the orphan girl did not face it alone. The orphan girl could not sleep that night. Her body ached from the beating, but the memory of the human's hand was stronger. She kept feeling the warmth of his touch, the way he lifted her, the way he shielded her. No one had ever stood for her before. No one had ever chosen her side. Her heart was torn between fear and hope. The city was restless. Rumors spread faster, then fire. "The human protects the orphan," voices whispered in every street. "Why does he care for her? She is worthless." Others spat. The governor's guards grew harsher, searching alleys, dragging people aside. They warned the citizens, "Stay away from the orphan. She is cursed." But still, the human looked for her. Still, his eyes searched the crowds, searching only for her. One evening, the humans walked through the center square. Crowds parted, eyes full of suspicion. And there she was, hiding near the fountain, her hood pulled low. She did not want to be seen, but her eyes betrayed her. They kept drifting to him, and once, again he found her. Their gazes locked. Time froze. The world moved around them, yet it felt like only the two of them existed. The guards noticed too. One stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Why do you look at her, human? She is nothing." The crowd laughed cruelly, echoing the guard's words. Her cheeks burned, her chest heavy. She wanted to vanish, to sink into the stones. But the human did not turn away. He stepped forward, placing himself between her and the guard. His hand rested on his weapon, his voice firm. Though she could not understand his language, she felt the meaning in his tone. "She is someone." Gasps spread through the crowd. The guard snarled, his hand reaching for his blade, but the human did not move aside. He stood tall, strong, his eyes steady. The orphan's breath caught, fear and awe mixing inside her. He was risking everything, his mission, his safety, maybe even his life. For her. The guard spat at her feet, then stepped back, muttering. The crowd dispersed slowly, whispers thick as smoke. The human turned to her, his face soft again. He knelt, offering his hand. Once more her eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling. Why do you fight for me?" She wanted to run. Running was safe, hiding was safe. If she stayed, the city would destroy her, maybe even destroy him. Every part of her screamed, "Leave before it is too late." But her heart whispered louder, "Stay." She remembered all the nights alone, all the hunger, all the beatings. She remembered the shame, the cold silence, the emptiness of being unseen. And then she remembered the bread, the smile, the hand that lifted her from the dirt. No one had ever done that. No one had ever chosen her. Her tears fell harder, her body shaking. She realized the truth she had been too afraid to believe. She did not want to be invisible anymore. She wanted to be seen, even if it meant danger. Her hand moved slowly, trembling. She placed it into his once again. Her voice cracked. But her words were clear. "I will stay." She did not know if he understood, but when he smiled, when his fingers closed gently around hers, she knew he had. The choice was made. She would not run from him, not hide, not vanish into the shadows. If the city hated her, so be it. If the guards hunted her, so be it, because for the first time in her life, she belonged to something greater than fear. For the first time, she belonged to someone who saw her as female, as alive, as worthy. That night, he led her away from the square, through hidden alleys, past broken gates, toward the edge of the city. She walked beside him, her legs weak, her heart strong. Every step was heavy with risk, yet filled with hope. The world around her still hated, still spat, still cursed, but she no longer carried their weight alone. The choice was hers, and she had chosen. At the edge of the city, they stopped by the ruins of an old tower. He turned to her, speaking softly, his words still foreign, but she felt the meaning in his tone. He was telling her the path would be hard, that danger would follow. He was asking, without words, if she was ready. She lifted her head, her eyes wet but steady, and she whispered, "Yes." The wind howled through the tower ruins, carrying her voice away. But the decision had been made. She was no longer the invisible orphan hiding in shadows. She was the girl who chose. And though fear still lived inside her, hope lived there too. For the first time, hope was stronger. The orphan girl had made her choice. She would no longer run, no longer hide in the shadows. Her hand was in the human's hand, and that changed everything. But the city was watching, the city was waiting, and danger was closer than ever. Word spread quickly. "The orphan walks with the human," the people whispered. "She has betrayed her kind," they spat. The guards doubled their patrols, their eyes scanning every alley. They wanted to crush the spark before it grew. But the spark had already become a flame. The human kept her close. At night, he led her through hidden streets. By day, he shielded her when eyes turned cruel. His men questioned him, their voices low and worried. "Why risk so much for her?" they asked. But he only answered with silence and action. He stood between her and the world, and that answer was enough. The orphan's life was still hard. She still felt hunger, still carried fear. But her heart was different now. She no longer felt invisible. She no longer asked why she existed. Because when the human looked at her, she understood. She was someone. One night the danger struck. A mob gathered near the old tower where she sometimes slept. Their voices were sharp, their faces twisted with hate. "She does not belong," they shouted. "She brings shame," others roared. The orphan froze, her body trembling. But before they reached her, the human appeared, his weapon drawn, his eyes like fire. He shouted words in his own tongue, his voice strong. The mob stopped, fear flickering in their eyes. No one dared step forward, not with him standing there. He reached for her hand, pulling her close, his grip steady, his presence a shield. She pressed against him, her tears falling. For the first time in her life, someone had stood in front of her and said, "No, no to the cruelty, no to the hate, no to the loneliness." And that single act filled her chest with light, but the mob would not disappear forever. The city would not forgive. The guards would soon come, stronger than before. The human knew this, and so did she. There was only one path left: escape. That night he led her through the ruins at the edge of the city. The streets were empty, the air thick with silence. In the distance, the human ship glowed like a beacon. Each step felt heavier, each shadow more dangerous. But she did not let go of his hand, no matter how her body shook, no matter how her mind screamed. She held on. Behind them, shouts rose. Guards had discovered their path. The pounding of boots echoed through the night. Her chest burned, her legs weak, but the human pulled her forward, never slowing. He would not let them take her, not now, not ever. At last they reached the gates of the human camp. Soldiers turned in surprise, their weapons raised, but the human barked commands, his voice sharp. They hesitated, then lowered their guns. He led her past them, through the gates, into the heart of the camp. Her eyes widened, her breath catching. Machines hummed, lights burned bright. It was like stepping into another world. Inside the ship, the air was warm and clean, the walls smooth, glowing with soft light. She stood frozen, overwhelmed. Her whole life had been dirt, cold, shadows. Now she stood in a place she could not even imagine before. She turned to him, tears in her eyes, whispering, "Why me?" The human knelt, his hand gentle on her shoulder. He spoke again in words she still could not understand, but his eyes told her the truth, because he saw her, because she mattered, because she was not nothing. Her tears fell harder, but they were not only tears of sorrow, they were tears of release, of hope, of belonging. For the first time, she felt she was no longer an orphan. She was not invisible, not worthless, not forgotten. She was seen. She was chosen. She was alive. The engines of the ship roared. The ground trembled. Outside, the city guards shouted, their weapons flashing, but it was too late. The ship lifted, climbing into the night sky, leaving the hatred below. She pressed her face to the window, watching the city grow smaller. Her heart pounded, fear still there, but hope stronger. She whispered softly, almost too soft to hear. No one wanted me, except one human. The stars spread wide before her, endless and bright. For the first time, the universe did not look empty. It looked like a future, a dangerous future, but one worth living. She turned to him, her voice trembling but firm. "Take me with you." And though she did not understand his words, his answer was clear. He nodded, smiling softly, and together they stepped into the unknown.